Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to affectionately refer to this class today as all about that base. So we've been doing a lot of work lately for the glutes, and I thought maybe we could do a whole class to release through the glutes. As always, you're going to get a bit of hamstrings, a bit of hip flexors, a little bit of spine as well, because that's just what we do in yoga. But yeah, let's release these guys. I'm feeling a bit tight. I wonder if you are as well. We're going to start seated. Yeah, let's start seated. We might then go down to the floor, but I'm going to sit up on a block just to help release my hip flexors a little bit. Gives me a little bit more space to be seated, in a comfortable place. You don't have to stack your heels in this sort of yoga thing. You could have your legs crossed or sit with the legs outstretched. You might even sit on your shins. If you don't want to sit, you can lie down. So wherever you need to be. Just for the starting portion, right? Just getting settled. And then I invite you to gently close your eyes. For a few breaths, maybe you take a sweet inhale through your nose. And then exhale a little sigh of your breath. A couple more. And then continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Usually in yoga we say breathe through your nose only. It just helps slow the breath down. But if you're feeling stuffed up, then don't worry about it. Make any little physical adjustments you might need. And then draw your focus to your breath. You might notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest, or the in and out of your belly. Maybe you notice the widening of your rib cage with every inhale, and the softening of your torso with every exhale. With every inhale, imagine your sit bones rooting down a little bit more into the earth or into your prop. A few more breaths here, slow and sweet. And then slowly deepen your breath a little bit. And bring a little bit of movement back to your body. Maybe you gently flicker your eyelids open. And if you're sitting like I am, I want you to come to what we would think of as like a normal cross leg. Sukhasana, easy position. You can still be sitting up on a prop if you'd like to. I'm going to take mine away because it just puts too much pressure on my ankles to be lifted. And whatever leg is crossed in front, just remember. And then what we're going to do is just slowly fold forward over top of these are the crossed legs. Now, if you want, you can come forward on a long line with your spine first, kind of wrapping the shoulder blades onto your back and beaming the heart forward, and see how that feels. All of a sudden, I start to feel quite a bit of tension through the lateral side of my glutes and even the IT bands. If it feels all right on your low back, then here you might start to round through your spine. You might let the head hang heavy. You could bring your arms in front of you. Sometimes I like propping my forehead on my thumbs, or if you have blocks or pillows, you could stack them underneath your forehead. And it doesn't matter how deep or how high you are here, so long as you're just getting some tension, right? And it might just be a very subtle angle. So wherever you need to go, a few breaths here. So this variation of fire logs, even though it's not fire logs, it's just a folded Sukhasana, is really good at getting the muscles that attach to the IT band. So TFL, as well as some of the other muscles in the butt. Last breath here. And then slowly roll yourself up. Let's take a little twist. So twist to the right. Left hand might come to the right knee. You could bring your right fingertips behind you. Make sure that left hip isn't sneaking forward. Wrap it back in line. And then inhale back to center. Exhale, opposite direction. And then inhale back to center. Okay, we're going to switch up the crossing of the legs now. So whatever leg was in front now goes behind. Usually this ends up feeling quite weird, like you've crossed someone else's legs, not your own. We get so used to this one position all the time. Right? Same with when we interlace our hands. One way feels weird versus the other way. So that's why we got to balance out the neuromuscular system here. So whatever leg is forward now, again, we're going to start to fold forward. Maybe you come forward on that long line, and it can feel really different from one side to the other, depending on which leg is crossed in front. It might not feel different at all. Maybe you start to round forward. Maybe you feel tension in a different part of your body from one side to the other, and that's normal as well. You might feel some release into the low back even. Last breath here. And then slowly inhale, come back up to center. We'll twist again, this time to the left first. Make sure that right hip comes back in line. And then inhale, center. Exhale, right. And then inhale, come back to center. Unwind your legs. Ooh, shake them out a little bit. That feels better. For me anyway. While we're here, let's bring the soles of the feet together and your knees wide. for a butterfly pose. So the closer you bring the heels in toward your groin, the more you're going to feel this in the groin. The further away they are, more like a diamond, the more you're going to feel them into the outer hip. But that's ended up being quite a similar stretch to what we just did. Again, this is a really fantastic place to sit up on something, whether it's just a folded up towel or a block. And then you might bring pillows or blocks underneath your knees, particularly if they're quite high up. Right? You want something to support your knees because gravity can get a little bit, create too much tension, right? So much so that you're kind of gripping to hold the knees up in the air. So wherever you end up being, and then hold on to the ankles or the floor, not your toes. Inhale, lift tall. Exhale, again, come forward on that long line. First, wrap your shoulder blades onto the back, beam your heart forward. And then while we're here, squeeze the butt. So it's almost like you're pressing the knees toward the floor by squeezing your bum. Maybe you come forward a little bit more. And then release that activation on the glutes. And then maybe, if it feels all right on your low back, you start to round forward. Now, never judge where you are in a pose based on where the yoga teacher is. We are generally hypermobile, and you don't necessarily want to be hypermobile. Hypermobility can lead to quite a bit of instability in the joints. So that's why I complement my yoga practice with a strenuous practice in the gym so that I can find strength as well as mobility. Anyway, a few more breaths here. And slowly press yourself back up to seated on an inhale. You can use your hands to draw the legs toward each other. Stretch out the legs. Oh, a little shake. Little windshield wiper of the knees. And then make your way to hands and knees. So I love cat and cow. I think it's one of the best things that you can do for your body every day. It just helps release the hips and the spine. So that's why I do it in almost every yoga class that I teach. Knees under hips, toes tucked or untucked. Hands nice and wide. Spread the fingers wide. Inhale to lift the tailbone. Wrap the shoulder blades toward each other in cow. Exhale, round into cat. Really tuck the tailbone under. Press through the shoulder blades. And then inhale to dip. Exhale to round. So a few more of these undulations on your own time, on your own breath. Move however you need to move. I'm going to send my hips back toward my heels, and cat gets into the low back a little bit more. Maybe you're drawing barrel rolls through your chest or spine. Just sort of move in a really organic way. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Just go for how it feels. And then as you inhale, slowly come back to center. Little lift of belly button to spine. Cross your right hand in front of the left hand. So it doesn't have to be on top. It could be close. It could be further away or further in front of the hand. You just don't want to cross too far over. And then send your hips back. So hopefully you're feeling something along the right side of your body. You could come down to forearm. And think of reaching your fingertips in the opposite direction of your sit bone on that right side. You can even kind of stick your booty out to the left a little bit as you do this, depending on how much tension you want to achieve along the outer right side of your body. And then inhale, come back to center, and then switch sides. Another reason to never compare yourself or your yoga practice with the teacher or anyone else in your room is we all have different body shapes and sizes, and the length of our bones can be different, the proportion of our bones. My arms are really long compared to my body, compared to my torso. Last breath here. And then inhale, come back up, little wiggle or shake, tuck your toes, lift the hips up and back into downward facing dog. Pedal the heels out a little bit. Wag your tail from side to side. And then bend your knees, look forward, walk, step, or hop into a standing forward fold. You could have hands on blocks, right? Bring the earth up to you. Make the practice easy on your body, right? It's not that it becomes simple or ineffective, but it brings ease, right? Sweetness to your body. So if your knees are hyperextended, give them a little bend, right? Go easy on yourself. You could sway, you could be still, whatever you need. We think of this as a hamstring stretch, but if you bend your knees a little bit more, whoo, then it starts to target the sit bones, right? The origin of the hamstrings, but you're also getting flexion through the glutes, which is a nice stretch for them as well. So, a few more breaths here. You could rock forward or back on the feet or side to side. And then release your hands if they're bound with fingertips to the floor or blocks or your shins. As you inhale, lift up partway, lengthen through your spine. Exhale, fold. Couple more. And then bend your knees. Slowly start to roll up to standing. Keep your head really heavy and dangling the whole time until eventually you come all the way up. Couple loops of your shoulders, up, back, and down. A little wiggle. Release whatever you need to release. Ha! Ha! Excuse me. Welcome to standing. You might want to turn sideways on your mat. We're going to take a wide stance here. And then just for fun, it's not that much fun, sit into a wide leg squat. But we're not going to be here for strength building or anything like that. Bring your hands to your thighs and then use your hands to press the knees back and open. So you've got all the support of your arms holding your upper body. You could do a little dip with the shoulders, pressing the knees back even more. And then slowly start to straighten the legs. Spin your heels out as you come into a wide leg forward fold. This is a really great place to bring stuff underneath your hands, right? To bring the floor up to you. Maybe you heel into the feet a little bit wider, wherever you need to go, but try not to press the heels away from each other. If anything, think of hugging the legs back to the center line so that you're not really jamming into your SI joint. Little micro bend or even a deep bend on the knees, right? You can play with that too. If you always have your legs straight here, try bending your knees a little bit more and see how that feels. You want your toes turned in slightly, and that helps protect your ankles and your knees here. Keep hugging the legs toward each other. Last couple breaths. And then bring your hands to the earth underneath your shoulders. Inhale, lift up partway. Exhale, let it go. A couple more, right? Maybe your hands are on a block. Just don't take your hands off the floor. So you don't want to be hovering. You want the support. And then heel and toe your feet back to hip width. Bend your knees and roll up to standing. Shake it out a little bit. I know we were just down and then we sit up, or we're going to sit down again. So come down however feels good for you. All right. So let's get into those glutes a little bit more now, into piriformis and glute med. Extend your left leg in front of you. You're going to cross the right ankle over top of that left thigh. For some of you, this might be enough of a stretch or of a release into that right hip. If so, perfect, stay here. Stage 2, spine long, lean back, and start to bend the bottom knee. Now you can use your hands behind the thigh, right, to hold yourself up. Try not to round through your spine, because as soon as you do that, and you can try it, you lose the tension on that right hip. So spine long, and then the more closer you draw that thigh in, you'll notice the deeper that stretch is. If you wish to go into the traditional version of fire logs, then maybe you fold that bottom shin underneath. If there's space between the knees and thighs or ankles, you could go. You could round forward. I'm going to stay in this figure 4 stretch. And sometimes it feels good to rock a little bit side to side, and just it changes where the stretch is targeted. Last few breaths here. And then as slowly as you got into it, rewind. Right? And reverse. You can use your hands to uncross that leg. Ooh, extend it out, shake it out a little bit. Right away we'll go to the opposite side. Right leg extends forward, left ankle crosses over top. Keep that ankle quite active. Maybe this is enough for you. Again, we have so many different muscular imbalances. It might feel wicked tight on one side and really open on the other. Maybe you lean back a little bit and start to deepen the stretch. Often, the side that feels tighter will be your dominant side. Not always, particularly if you've been doing a lot of other glute exercises lately. But if you're right leg dominant, then you'll feel it on the right side. If you're left leg dominant, you'll feel it on the left side. Again, if you want to change the stretch, you're welcome to take it into fire logs if you prefer. Maybe you rock a little bit side to side. Ooh, that feels interesting today. I'm going to hang out here. Spine long. Make sure they're not gripping into the neck and shoulders. Last couple breaths. And then slowly, gently unwind. Shake out the legs a little bit. Whew. All right. So bring your right shin in front, left shin out to the side. So this is a 90-90 stretch. You might come over top of that front shin or over top of the thigh. Some of you I know will prefer to go into pigeon prep instead of 90-90. So in which case, I'm just going to turn sideways so I don't knock my bookshelf down. You sweep the left leg behind you. Walk the knee back and in a little bit. And then you could stay up. You could come forward. It doesn't matter what angle this front shin is on. And in fact, the more it is parallel to the front edge of the mat, the harder it's going to be on your knees. So just, again, go easy on yourself. So a few breaths in whatever variation of the stretch you have decided to take. Now this is going to feel similar to the last one we were in. but it's not exactly the same, particularly if you're over top of the thigh. This one is going to be closer to the figure 4 stretch, but the cool thing about 1990 is that back thigh, as I call it, or the left thigh, is an internal rotation, which isn't something we do a lot of in yoga, right? We're always talking about opening up the hips. Sometimes you want to work the internal rotators as well. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly press yourself back up to seated. Shift your weight to the right so that you can swing that left leg forward. Shake it out, and then we'll switch to the opposite side. So left shin comes in front, right shin out to the side. Again, if you wish to work pigeon prep, then instead swing that right leg back behind you. Walk the knee in and back. You might stay up high or come down over top of that thigh. If you want to stay with me in 1990, then either come over top of the shin or over top of the thigh. And then settle into it. And particularly when we bow our heads forward, the mind starts to race a little bit, and it's kind of a weird thing, right? Even though this is a virtual class, it's like when we think that people can't see our face, then the mind starts to race. So try to focus on your breath, or maybe you see a point on the floor. Maybe you can concentrate on trying to keep your eyes steady on that single point. It is said that 10 seconds of the eyes focused on one single point without moving is a very, very high level of concentration. Think of that, 10 seconds. Last breath here. And slowly press yourself back up. Send your weight to the left so you can swing that right leg forward. Shake it out. And then however feels best for you, whether walk yourself down on your hands or do a sort of a Pilates roll down. Come down onto your back and hug your knees into your chest. Little rock from side to side. Take your knees wide out toward your shoulders or armpits. You might stay here, or you might kick your feet up to the sky for happy baby. You could grab the backs of the thighs or somewhere along the legs, the ankles, or the feet. Generally, it's a lot easier to have your arms in between your legs rather than trying to grab around the outside. And then can you think of pressing your lower back into the floor? Or rather, no, the opposite. Find the space of the lower back lifting from the floor ever so slightly. You could rock a little bit from side to side. And then if there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, please feel free to take it. It could be a posture, a meditation, or breath work. And then otherwise, think about where you would like to land, whether it's flat on your back, legs bent or straight in Shavasana. Maybe you rest on your side in a fetal position or child's pose or in a seated meditation, wherever you need to be. Once you've found your pose of rest, for a couple breaths, sweet inhale through the nose And exhale, sigh. And breath away through your mouth. It doesn't have to be a deep breath, just a release of tension. And continue breathing however you need to, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. Let go of the breath control, though, so that you return to your natural breath. And let go of any last muscle tension or gripping in your body. Stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.